Elon Musk stood alone in his quiet house, but a strange sound outside broke the silence. It was his birthday, and for the first time in years, he chose to spend it with no one, no parties, no phone calls, just himself. The world knew him as the man who built rockets and electric cars, but tonight he was just Elon, craving peace. His life was a whirlwind of meetings, deadlines, and big ideas that never stopped spinning in his head. He was tired, not just in his body, but deep in his soul. All he wanted was one day to breathe, to think, to feel like himself again. The morning sun spilled through his big windows, painting his living room in soft gold. The house was still, no buzzing phones or urgent emails. Elon woke up without an alarm, a rare treat. He shuffled to the kitchen in his pajamas, made a cup of coffee, and sat by the window. Outside, birds hopped in his garden, their tiny wings catching the light. He smiled, feeling lighter than he had in months. The world outside could wait. Today was his. He thought back to 2 weeks ago, sitting in a stuffy boardroom. Numbers and charts filled the air, but his mind drifted. He was tired of being on all the time, always the leader, the visionary. I just want one day to be. He'd told his assistant, Sarah, when he canceled every plan. She'd raised an eyebrow, surprised. No birthday party? No dinner? She asked. Elon shook his head. Just quiet. I need quiet. His friends called, worried he was sad or lonely. But he wasn't. He was hungry for something rare time to think, to feel, to remember who he was before the world pulled him in every direction. The past year had been a storm. New rocket launches, factory openings, and endless interviews had left him drained. He couldn't recall the last time he'd read a book for fun or tinkered with a project just because he loved it. His days were packed with decisions that shaped companies and changed lives, but they left no room for him. The idea of a solo birthday had sparked during that boardroom daydream, a day with no expectations, no demands, just him and his thoughts. Elon spent the morning curled up with a book about inventors, its pages worn from being ignored too long. He read slowly, savoring each word. For lunch, he made a simple peanut butter sandwich, something he hadn't done since he was a kid. He laughed to himself, remembering how his mom used to cut the crusts off. The memory warmed him, like the sunlight on his face. The afternoon passed in his workshop, where he fiddled with an old radio, its wires and gears a puzzle that calmed his busy mind. No deadlines, no pressure, just the joy of fixing something with his hands. As evening fell, rain tapped softly on the roof, wrapping the house in a cozy hum. Elon planned a quiet night by the fireplace, maybe writing down thoughts about the year ahead. He felt at peace, like he was finally reconnecting with a part of himself he'd forgotten. But then, a sound cut through the rain, a faint, desperate cry from outside his gate. It wasn't just a noise. It carried pain, fear, something that tugged at his heart. Who was out there, alone in the storm? And why had they come to his door? The rain grew heavier, pounding the ground as Elon grabbed his umbrella and flashlight. The crying outside his gate was louder now, sharp and raw, like someone was breaking apart. His heart raced. He couldn't ignore it. Slipping on boots, he stepped into the storm, the cold biting his skin. The peaceful birthday he'd craved was slipping away, replaced by a nagging pull to help whoever was out there. What kind of trouble brought someone to his door in this weather? Through the downpour, he saw a small figure curled up against the gate, soaked and trembling. It was a girl, maybe 10 years old, her thin jacket clinging to her like a second skin. Her sobs shook her whole body, and her dark hair stuck to her tear-streaked face. She clutched a crumpled piece of paper, her fingers white from gripping it so hard. Elon crouched down, holding the umbrella over her. "Hey, are you okay?" "What's Wrong? He asked, his voice soft but urgent. The girl looked up, her eyes wide with fear and something else, hope, maybe. She tried to speak, but her words caught in her throat, choked by sobs. I need you, she whispered finally, her voice barely audible over the rain. You're Elon Musk, right? Her question hit him like a jolt. How did this kid know his name? Why was she here alone on a night like this? He nodded, confused but steady. Yeah, I'm Elon. What's your name? Why are you out here? I'm Lila, she said, wiping her nose with a wet sleeve. I've been looking for you. I walked all day. Her words came in a rush, desperate, like she was afraid he'd turn her away. Elon's mind spun. A kid, walking alone for hours, searching for him? Something big was behind this, something heavy. He helped her stand, guiding her toward the house. Her steps were shaky, her sneakers squishing with every move. Come inside, he said. Let's get you dry and figure this out. Inside, the warmth of the house felt like a stark contrast to the storm. Elon wrapped Lila in a thick blanket and handed her a mug of hot cocoa. She sat on the couch, shivering, her eyes darting around like she wasn't sure she belonged. He sat across from her, trying to stay calm despite the questions piling up. Lila, why were you looking for me? What's going on? He asked gently, leaning forward. Her fingers tightened around the mug, and her voice dropped low. It's my brother, Sam. They took him away yesterday. I don't know where he is. Her words cracked, and fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. Elon's chest tightened. A missing brother? This was bigger than he'd imagined. Who took him? Where are you supposed to be right now? He pressed, keeping his tone steady to anchor her. Lila's story poured out in fragments, each piece more heartbreaking than the last. She and Sam, her little brother, had been in foster care for a year after their parents died in a car accident. Sam was only 6, small and quiet, with a laugh that used to light up their tiny world. They'd promised to stick together, no matter what. But yesterday, social workers came to their group home and said Sam was being moved to a new family farm. Away, Lila wasn't allowed to go. They said I'm too old for them, she whispered, her voice thick with anger and pain. He's scared without me. I'm the only one who knows how to calm him down. Elon's mind flashed back to his own childhood, the ache of feeling alone, even in a crowded room. He saw the same raw fear in Lila's eyes, the kind that comes from losing the one person who makes the world feel safe. Where did they take him? He asked, his voice firm now, like he was ready to fix this. But Lila shook her head, her face crumpling. They wouldn't tell me. They said it's not my business. But he's my brother. Her voice rose, sharp and desperate, cutting through the quiet house. He leaned back, his calm birthday now a distant memory. This wasn't just a kid needing help, this was a system tearing a family apart. He thought of the bureaucracy, the endless rules, the cold decisions that didn't care about a 6-year-old's nightmares or a sister's love. Could he even help? His wealth and influence could move mountains, but foster care was a maze of laws and red tape. Doubt crept in, heavy and unfamiliar. He was used to solving problems with code, engineering, or money, but this was Messier, human, raw. Lila, how did you find me? He asked, trying to piece together her journey. She pulled the crumpled paper from her pocket, a torn page with a hand-drawn map scribbled in crayon. Some kids at the home said you help people. They heard you lived around here, in a big house. I asked at every gate I could find. Her determination stunned him. A 10-year-old, wandering alone, knocking on strangers' doors in the rain, all for her brother. It was brave, reckless, and heartbreaking. As he studied the map, his phone buzzed on the table. He ignored it, but Lila's eyes flicked to it, nervous. "You won't call them, will you?" she asked, her voice small. "The social workers? They'll take me back, and I'll never find Sam." Her fear was electric, sparking tension in the room. Elon shook his head. "I won't call anyone yet, but we need to make sure you're safe." She nodded, but her eyes stayed wary, like she wasn't sure she could trust him. The rain outside roared louder, and Elon's thoughts raced. He could call his lawyer, pull strings, but what if Sam was already too far away? What if the system wouldn't bend? Lila's voice broke through his thoughts. "Sam needs me," she said, almost to herself. "He has nightmares about the crash. I sing to him when he wakes up. Nobody else knows the song." Her words hit like a punch, and Elon saw her fighting to hold it together, a kid carrying a thing. Weight too big for her shoulders. He stood, pacing the room, his mind wrestling with the problem. He wasn't just fighting for Lila, he was fighting a system that didn't see her love for Sam as enough. Every second that passed felt heavier, like time was slipping away. Then a loud knock echoed from the front door, sharp and urgent. Lila froze, her mug trembling in her hands. "They found me," she whispered, her eyes wide with panic. Who was at the door, and what did they know about Sam? The knock at the door echoed like a hammer in Elon's quiet house. Lila's eyes widened, her small hands clutching the cocoa mug so tightly it might crack. "They're here to take me," she whispered, her voice shaking. The rain lashed against the windows, a relentless roar that matched the storm in Elon's chest. He stood frozen, caught between the urge to protect this brave, broken girl and the weight of a problem that felt too big to solve. He wasn't a hero. He built rockets, not families. Could he really help Lila find her brother? Or was he just delaying her pain? "Stay here," he said softly, touching her shoulder. Her blanket slipped as she nodded, her face pale with fear. Elon walked to the door, his boots heavy on the hardwood floor. His mind raced social workers, police, someone who'd seen Lila wandering. He opened the door, the cold air rushing in, and found a woman standing there soaked, her coat dripping onto the porch. Her eyes were tired but sharp, like she'd been searching for hours. "Are you Elon Musk?" she asked, her voice steady despite the storm. "Yes," he said, cautious. "Who are you?" "I'm Maria, a caseworker. I think you have a girl here, Lila." Her words were calm, but they hit like a punch. Elon glanced back at Lila, who was peeking from the couch, her eyes pleading. He stepped outside, pulling the door halfway closed. "She's safe. She's scared. What's going on with her brother?" His voice was low, almost a growl, protective in a way that surprised. "Him," Maria sighed, rubbing her wet hands together. "Lila ran away from the group home tonight. Her brother, Sam, was moved yesterday. It's policy sometimes siblings get split up for adoption. I know it's hard, but it's how the system works." Her tone was practiced, like she'd said this too many times. Elon's jaw tightened. The system. A cold machine that tore kids apart without a second thought. He thought of Lila's crumpled nap, her desperate trek through the rain. This wasn't just policy. It was personal. And it was breaking her. Back inside, Lila was shaking, her blanket pooled at her feet. "They're going to take me back, aren't they?" she asked, her voice small but fierce. "I won't go, not without Sam." Her eyes burned with a mix of fear and defiance, and Elon felt something crack inside him. He'd wanted a quiet birthday, a day to escape the world's demands. But now, faced with this girl's raw courage, he felt small. His problems, deadlines, meetings paled next to her fight. He was exhausted, not from work, but from the weight of her trust in him. What if he failed her? He knelt beside her, his voice steady despite the doubt clawing at him. "Lila, I'm not giving up, but I need to know more about Sam. Tell me about him." Her lips trembled, but she nodded, pulling a small photo from her pocket. It showed a little boy with messy curls and a shy smile, holding a toy spaceship. "He loves space," she said, her voice cracking. "I told him you make rockets. He thinks you're a superhero." The words hit Elon hard. A superhero? He felt like a fraud, standing in his warm house while this kid's world fell apart. Lila's voice grew softer, her eyes distant. "Sam has nightmares about the crash. I sing him this lullaby our mom used to sing. It's the only thing that helps. He's so little. He's probably crying right now, and no one knows how to make it stop." Her words broke off, and she buried her face in her hands. Elon's throat tightened. He saw himself as a kid, lying awake, scared of things he couldn't name. Leela wasn't just fighting for Sam, she was fighting to keep herself whole. And he was running out of ideas. He stood pacing, his mind a storm of questions. Call his lawyer? Track down the Foster family? But the system was a wall, faceless, rigid, uncaring. He felt powerless, a feeling he hated. His companies solved impossible problems, space travel, electric cars, but this? A little boy lost in a maze of paperwork? It felt like trying to catch rain in his hands. He looked at Lila, her small frame curled on the couch, and his heart sank. Was this it? Was he about to let her down? Then his phone buzzed again. He'd ignored it before, but something made him glance at the screen. A voicemail from his lawyer, marked urgent. His pulse quickened as he played it. "Elon, I got your message about the girl." I dug into her case. "There's something you need to know about Sam's placement. It's not what it seems." The line cut off, static crackling. Elon's breath caught. Not what it seems? What had his lawyer found? And could it be the key to bringing Sam back to Lila? The voicemail hung in the air like a spark in the dark. Elon's fingers tightened around the phone, his heart pounding against his ribs. The rain outside roared, a wild drumbeat that matched the chaos in his mind. Lila sat on the couch, her eyes locked on him, wide and searching. "What is it?" she whispered, her voice trembling with hope and dread. Maria, the caseworker, stood by the door, her arms crossed, watching closely. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in as Elon replayed the message in his head. Sam's placement is not what it seems. What did that mean? His lawyer's voice had been urgent, almost shaken, and that wasn't like him. Something big was unraveling. Elon set the phone down, his hands unsteady. "Lila, give me a second," he said, his voice low, trying to keep her calm while his thoughts raced. He stepped into the hallway, away from her pleading eyes, and called his lawyer back. The line rang once, twice, then connected. "What did you find?" Elon asked, skipping pleasantries. His lawyer's voice crackled through the storm static. "Elon, I tracked down Sam's file. The foster family he was sent, they're not adopting him. They're part of a program that moves kids to temporary homes before transferring them out of state. Sam's being prepped for a group facility in another city, one with a bad reputation. Overcrowded, understaffed. The kind of place kids get lost in." The words hit Elon like a fist to the chest. His breath caught, and he leaned against the wall, the cold plaster grounding him. A bad facility? Sam, a 6-year-old who needed his sister's lullabies to sleep, was being shipped off. To a place where no one would care? Anger flared, hot and sharp, mixing with a sickening sense of helplessness. He pictured Sam's face from Lila's photo, those shy curls, that toy spaceship, and imagined him alone, scared, in a cold dorm with strangers. The system wasn't just splitting siblings. It was failing them, abandoning them. And Lila, sitting just feet away, had no idea how much worse her brother's fate might be. He walked back to the living room, his face tight, trying to hide the storm inside. Lila stood now, clutching her blanket, her eyes boring into him. "What's wrong? Is it Sam?" Her voice was sharp, desperate, like she could sense the truth clawing its way out. Elon knelt in front of her, his hands on her shoulders, gentle but firm. "Leela, I found out where Sam is. He's not with a family like they told you. They're planning to send him somewhere far away, a place that's not good for him." Her face crumpled, and a sob broke free. "No, they can't. He's too little." She grabbed his sleeve, her fingers digging in. "You have to stop them." Elon's heart twisted. Her trust in him, her belief that he could fix this, was a weight he wasn't sure he could carry. But the revelation lit a fire in him. This wasn't just about bureaucracy anymore. It was about a system that lied, that hid the truth to shuffle kids like Sam into places where they'd be forgotten. He thought of his own kids, safe and loved, and the contrast made his stomach churn. He couldn't let Lila down. Not now. Not after she'd walked miles in the rain to find him. "Lila," he said, his voice steady despite the rage burning inside. "I'm going to fight for Sam. For you, I promise." Her eyes searched his, looking for a lie, but found none. She nodded, tears spilling, and hugged him, her small frame shaking against his chest. The embrace caught him off guard, raw and real, and for a moment he felt the full weight of her hope resting on him. It was heavier than any rocket he'd ever launched. Maria cleared her throat, breaking the moment. "Elon, you can't just interfere. There are laws, processes." He cut her off, standing tall, his voice sharp. "Processes that lie to kids? That send a 6-year-old to a place where he'll be scared and alone? I'm done with processes." Maria flinched, but didn't argue. She knew he was right. The system was broken, and Sam was paying the price. Elon's mind raced, mapping out a plan. He'd call in every favor, use every connection, lawyers, judges, anyone who could bend the rules. He'd fund whatever it took to get Sam back. But time was slipping away. The facility transfer was scheduled for tomorrow morning. Hours, not days. His lawyer had mentioned one name, a judge who might listen, who'd overseen Sam's case. Elon grabbed his phone, his fingers flying as he typed a message to his team. "Find Judge Carter. Now. Emergency meeting tonight." He looked at Lila, her face streaked with tears, but fierce with determination. "We're going to get Sam," he said, his voice like steel. "But I need you to tell me everything about him, every detail. It'll help us fight." Lila nodded, pulling out a tiny notebook from her pocket, filled with Sam's drawings of stars and rockets. As she started talking about his favorite games, his fear of loud noises, Elon felt a surge of purpose. This was his mission now. No more quiet birthday, no more hiding from the world. He was all in, and he'd tear down the system if he had to. But could he reach Sam before the transfer? Or was it already too late? The clock on the wall ticked like a heartbeat, each second pulling Elon closer to a deadline that could shatter Leela's world. It was 4 a.m., and the storm outside had softened to a drizzle. But inside his house, the tension was a hurricane. Lila sat at the kitchen table, clutching Sam's notebook of star sketches, her eyes red but fierce. Elon paced, his phone pressed to his ear, his lawyer's voice crackling through. "Judge Carter's meeting us at the courthouse in an hour," the lawyer said. "It's our only shot. The transfer order for Sam goes through at 6 a.m. 1 hour. 1 hour to stop a system that had already decided a 6-year-old's fate. If Elon failed, Sam would vanish into a faceless facility, and Lila's heart would break beyond repair. He hung up, his jaw tight, his mind racing like one of his rockets. The stakes were crushing Lila's trust, Sam's safety, a promise he wasn't sure he could keep. He looked at her, her small hands tracing Sam's drawings, and felt a surge of resolve. Lila, we're going to the courthouse. You're coming with me. Your voice matters. She nodded, her face set like a soldier's, but her trembling hands betrayed her fear. Elon grabbed his coat, handed her one of his oversized jackets, and they ran to the car, the wet pavement, gleaming under streetlights. The drive to the courthouse was a blur, the city dark and quiet, except for the slap of wipers against the windshield. Elon's thoughts churned. He'd faced impossible odds before launch failures, bankruptcies, but this was different. This was a little boy who needed his sister's lullabies, a girl who'd walked through a storm to save him. Failure wasn't just a setback. It was a betrayal of their love. His hands gripped the wheel, knuckles white. Lila, tell me about Sam's favorite star, he said, needing her voice to anchor him. She sniffed, clutching the notebook. He loves Sirius, the brightest one. He says it's like a lighthouse in the sky, guiding us home. Her words were soft but heavy, carrying the weight of their bond. Elon swallowed hard, picturing Sam alone, staring at the stars, waiting for Lila. He pressed the gas harder, the car speeding through the empty streets dot at the courthouse. The fluorescent lights buzzed, harsh against the pre-dawn gloom. Judge. Carter waited in a small office, her face stern but tired, stacks of files towering on her desk. Maria, the caseworker, stood nearby, her expression unreadable. Elon's lawyer rushed in, papers in hand, his voice urgent. Judge, we're requesting an emergency stay on Sam's transfer. The facility is unfit reports of neglect, overcrowding. These siblings belong together. He slid a folder across. The desk, filled with evidence Elon's team had scrambled to gather overnight. Judge Carter's eyes narrowed, scanning the documents. Mr. Musk, you're not family. Why are you here? Her voice was sharp, cutting through the room. Elon felt Lila tense beside him, her hand grabbing his. He took a breath, his voice steady but burning. Because Lila walked miles in the rain to find me. Because Sam's sick and scared, and no one else is fighting for them. I have the means to help, and I won't let them be torn apart. Lila stepped forward, her voice small but fierce. Sam needs me. I'm his sister. I know. His nightmares, his favorite songs. He's not just a file, he's my family. Her words cracked, tears spilling, and the room went silent. Elon's chest ached, pride and fear mixing as he saw her courage. Judge Carter leaned back, her face softening, but her eyes still skeptical. The system prioritizes permanent homes. Sam's foster family was a step toward that. You're asking me to append protocol. Elon's anger flared, his voice rising. Protocol lied to Lila. It's sending Sam to a place where he'll be forgotten. Look at her. He gestured to Lila, her eyes blazing through tears. She's fighting harder than your system ever will. Give her a chance to keep her brother safe. The judge's gaze flickered to Lila, then to the files. The clock read 5:45 a.m., 15 minutes left. Elon's heart pounded, his palms sweaty. He'd never felt so powerless, standing in a room where words could decide everything. Judge Carter closed the folder, her face unreadable. I need to make a call, she said, stepping out. The silence that followed was suffocating. Lila sank into a chair, hugging Sam's notebook, whispering, Please. Elon knelt beside her, his voice low. We're close, Lila. You are so brave. But doubt gnawed at him. What if the judge said no? What if all this Lila's journey, his promises was for nothing? The door opened, and Judge Carter returned, her expression softer but serious. I spoke to the facility's director. The reports are true, It's not suitable for a child like Sam. I'm halting the transfer. Layla gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Elon's breath caught, relief flooding him like sunlight. But the judge continued, Sam's case needs a long-term solution. I'm ordering a review to prioritize reuniting them with support. She looked at Elon. Mr. Musk, your resources could make that happen: counseling, housing, stability. Elon nodded, his voice thick. Whatever it takes. Leela threw her arms around him, sobbing, her small body shaking with joy. We did it! Sam's coming back! The room blurred as Elon hugged her, his own eyes stinging. The fight wasn't over. Paperwork, hearings, and months of work lay ahead. But for now, Sam was safe, and Lila's hope was alive. He'd turned his birthday solitude into a battle for two kids who'd reminded him what mattered most, fighting for those who couldn't fight alone. The courthouse faded into the soft glow of dawn as Elon and Lila stepped outside, the air cool and crisp after the storm. Lila clutched Sam's notebook to her chest, her face still wet with tears, but lit with a quiet hope that hadn't been there hours ago. Elon's shoulders felt lighter, yet heavy with the weight of what he'd promised, a fight that wasn't over, but one they'd won for now. The judge's ruling had stopped Sam's transfer, and a plan was forming to bring him back to Lila, but the road ahead was long. Elon glanced at Lila, her small hand gripping his sleeve, and felt a shift inside. His birthday, once a quest for solitude, had become a battle for something bigger than himself. They drove back to his house in silence, the city waking up around them, lights flickering on, delivery trucks rumbling, the world moving forward. Layla stared out the window, her fingers tracing the stars in Sam's drawings. He's going to be okay, right? She asked, her voice soft but steady. Elon nodded, his throat tight. We'll make sure of it, Lila. You and me. Her small smile, fragile but real, was worth more than any rocket launch or boardroom win. He'd spent years chasing progress, building machines to touch the stars, but this fight for two kids felt like his truest mission yet. Back home, Elon made Lila breakfast pancakes, something simple he hadn't cooked in years. She ate slowly, her eyes flicking to Sam's notebook, as if it held him closer. Elon sat across from her, his coffee untouched, his mind replaying the night. He'd wanted quiet, a day to escape the world's demands, but Lila's knock had changed everything. Her courage, her desperate love for Sam, had cracked open something in him. Lila clutched Sam's notebook to her chest, her face still wet with tears, but lit with a quiet hope that hadn't been there hours ago. Elon's shoulders felt lighter, yet heavy with the weight of what he'd promised, a fight that wasn't over, but one they'd won for now. The judge's ruling had stopped Sam's transfer, and a plan was forming to bring him back to Lila, but the road ahead was long. Elon glanced at Lila, her small hand gripping his sleeve, and felt a shift inside. His birthday, once a quest for solitude, had become a battle for something bigger than himself. They drove back to his house in silence, the city waking up around them, lights flickering on, delivery trucks rumbling, the world moving forward. Lila stared out the window, her fingers tracing the stars in Sam's drawings. He's going to be okay, right? She asked, her voice soft but steady. Elon nodded, his throat tight. We'll make sure of it, Lila. You and me. Her small smile, fragile but real, was worth more than any rocket launch or boardroom win. He'd spent years chasing progress, building machines to touch the stars. But this fight for two kids felt like his truest mission yet. Back home, Elon made Lila breakfast pancakes, something simple he hadn't cooked in years. Ate slowly, her eyes flicking to Sam's notebook, as if it held him closer. Elon sat across from her, his coffee untouched, his mind replaying the night. He'd wanted quiet, a day to escape the world's demands, but Lila's knock had changed everything. Her courage, her desperate love for Sam, had cracked open something in him. What do you do when a stranger's cry breaks your silence? You listen, you fight, and you learn that the smallest hearts can teach the biggest lessons. For Elon, this birthday wasn't about candles or gifts. It was about a little girl who showed him that love is the greatest force of all. Asterisk.